Hello, my name is Haley. Although I sound American, I'm actually from Australia. I've just decided to start this YouTube channel as a form of revision of my French. Last year I was living in France and I improved my French considerably, so I want to make sure I keep that going and don't lose it. Use it or lose it, that kind of thing. So as I said, I wanted to record myself as a form of revision so I can see how I progress over time, and also to help others where I can, because it's always good to help others. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this as a basis. It's my intermediate level French textbook, but as I go through it I'll be touching on the basics at the beginner level, because just to reinforce that within my own working knowledge of the French language. I hope to treat these videos like an open discussion, because whilst in France and throughout my language learning journey, I've always found that I've learnt more discussing the French language amongst friends after class, or around the dinner table, or over coffee, etc. I kind of find it a little distracting at times in class, where you'll be talking about something, someone raises their hand because they don't know a word, and then it goes off at a tangent all over learning one word. As I go along, I'll also be referring to the dictionary a lot. Another book I'm going to be using is this one, the Blue Pocket Book of French Verbs, which I found really useful, this one and the dictionary. Because when you look up a word in the dictionary, you get its noun, the verb, the adjective, and any other related words. So I always use the example of to throw, for example. If you look that up in English in the dictionary, you wouldn't just be learning the word to throw. You'd see and learn to throw. It's throwable. I'm throwing. A throw. So I find it much quicker and faster and easier to look up the words in the dictionary and look them all, to learn them all at the one time. So in following this book, as part of my revision, I'm going to start with the top 30 verbs alphabetically, and then see how I go from there. So a good example of talking French amongst friends to help learning, when I was living in France with this family, I forgot the French word for the rubbish bin, and the father in the family, he was so funny. He said it's the poubelle, not la poubelle, like you. So poubelle and plus belle, it's a little joke. It's funny. I remember the story, and that way I'll always remember the word for garbage bin in French. So I kind of want to do a similar thing as part of my revision, and that's how I hope to help others at the same time. So let's get started. Alright, so because I don't know how to use all the fancy features of iMovie, which is the program that I'm using to film myself, I'm going to get my teacher on and go back to basics of the good old-fashioned blackboard. And I want to start with the difference between tu and vous, which in French both mean you, as in Y-O-U in English. The reason for that is because when I was living in France, I got so many conflicting messages about, which form of the word you to use, and who to use it with, when to use it, etc., etc. I would be calling people tu so often because I was living with a French family, that I would go out in public and I would just conjugate everything with the tu form, and then sometimes people are like, ooh, with that person you really should have used vous, but I wasn't practiced enough in using the vous conjugation of a word, and long story short, always start with vous and then go tu, and the difference is what I'm going to revise now. So starting my revision with the difference between the word tu and the word vous, both meaning you in English, I'm going to start with the singular person tu. My little single figure man. Yay! So things to note about the word tu. So with the word tu, it is really an informal level of saying you, as well as being you, the single person. So in terms of being an informal way of saying tu, being an Australian, we say mate a lot with the people that we are informal with, and mate has a very strong pronounced T. So another way I remember it is I only call my mates you, the tu version. So that's one way I remember it. Another way I remember where to use tu in an unofficial context is to is how you would say you to someone that you were intimate with. So if it was just me and to, I would be very, very happy. So just us two. So another way I remember to mean you in the singular version of French, I remember that to does not equal the number two in English. So it's always one person, not two, because if it's two or more people, when saying you, we use vous. To and vous both sound like the English word you, which is always helpful when you're beginning. But yeah, remember to as in you, to, does not equal the number two. Another thing to remember about the word to is that it also becomes just a sound, a t, when it is in front of a vowel, because in French, to plus a, e, I, o, u, etc. becomes t apostrophe, pronounced ta. So even though I know to means you, I always have to remember that sometimes when you hear the sound t, which I guess could be seen as an abbreviation of to, it also means that someone is referring to you singular to. There's a lot of tos and yous in this conversation. Okay, so moving on in my revision, I also want to talk about vous, meaning you, but as in multiple plural people. So vous, one quick way I remember is obviously it also rhymes with the English word you. And vous, there's more letters than the word to, so when referring to you, there's more people. The way I remember that it's you multiple people is the V, I can put like a little hook on it to make it look like a Y, so it's spelled in the same way as English. But in English, we take off the S and have you for single and plural. In French, as well as English, when it's not this word, a lot of other words put an S on the end when it's more than one person, so that's how I remember it as well. So it's kind of like get rid of the Y, so it's vous. You can see here that I've got a man and two girls, because it doesn't matter what the gender of the people are that you're talking about, it's just vous when it's multiple people. Another way that I remember to say vous when talking to a group of people was something that I learned when talking with hand gestures, because a lot of people talk with their hands when they talk. It's unavoidable, so if you can learn to control that a little bit when you're beginning, I think that would be very helpful. So when you say to, which is one person and usually someone you're more, on a mate basis with, if you point at them, where's my finger? That is, you'd say like to. But if I'm using vous, like the V that it begins with, I kind of create a V with my fingers, and so when I point at people, which is usually there's more than one, instead of going you there, that one person, I'll say vous there, you, two people, three people, four people, whatever. When starting to talk about vous in terms of conjugation, which I'll come to in a later episode, but I think at the very beginning it's a good idea to just be aware that vous is usually followed by a sound of a, which is the EZ conjugation. Vous something a, vous something a, vous something a. It's just really good to kind of keep that in the back of the mind, because when you start to speak French, that's where it will go. So every time I write the word vous, I try to remember in my head that it is followed by the sound a, most of the time. Another thing I like to keep in mind with the word vous is that when it's in front of a vowel, it kind of takes on a z sound. In terms of in front of the a, it's vous a, vous e, vous y, vous o. I don't think I've really come across the vous-o, but it's just to keep in mind that the S at the end of vous becomes a, even though it's not pronounced when you say vous, it takes on a Z sound in front of the vowels. So vous a, vous êtes, vous allez, vous êtes, vous irez, vous oubliez. Okay, revision regarding when to use vous when you're trying to be formal when using the English word you. So I basically, my revision comes down to a list of 4 categories. As I was saying earlier, vous when you first meet someone, just to cover your ass. Vous is about respect. So to show respect when meeting someone for the first time, always use vous, and then allow them the opportunity to say, hey, you know, we don't need to be so formal. We can go more down to a mate level and use tu. The second category that I have is professionals. So if I go to see the doctor, or if I have a work colleague, a business associate, someone where I'm working on a professional level with, I would use the word vous. Again, unless they said that it's okay to speak on the tu informal level. But again, I would kind of, in terms of good work habits, I would just say use vous all the time. The elderly, a lot of French people that I met that were younger said, oh, that's kind of like, you know, the past generation kind of thing, but you know, it's still within the culture. And so just again, out of respect to your elders, which I think is very important, I would use the word vous. The only other time this is where it got a little confusing, if someone was young, and most other people their age I met said, oh no, let's use the informal tu version. Occasionally there was like, no, don't call me tu, call me vous. And I generally found those to be the snooty people that I came across that thought they were better than everybody else because they had a bit more money, or they had a job that was desirable, or they just, you know, they thought their shit didn't stink. Those people, just get in the habit of calling them vous until they change. Like, you can turn around to them and you can say, look, you know, you can call me tu, but if they want to be called vous, you just have to go with that. So yeah, those are my categories when using the word vous when talking to people, trying to say the English word you. Vous, you. Sounds similar. Real easy. Okay, so I drew a little table that has a really quick overview summary of how I use the words tu and vous, both meaning you in English. So tu is who I would use with friends, more on an informal basis, and I would say it when I'm trying to say you to one person. Remember the fingers, you, one person. Vous is a more official way of saying it. It's when you want to be more respectful, whether the person deserves respect or not, but you know, when you want to be respectful around professionals, etc. And when it's 2 or more people, and again, when talking with my hands, I would say when it's you know, 2 or more people for vous, again, because the number 2 with my fingers there look kind of like a V. I know in Europe they say tu, but that doesn't look as much like a V than that way, so that's how I do it. Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to move on to the verbs next. So the first verb that I'm going to start with is acheter. And for those that don't know what it means, I'll come to that in a minute, but I just want to talk about the sounds of the word. So when I was learning French, I would just, you know, go through all the different conjugations, and like for this verb, I'd be like, oh my god, there's like so many different ways of writing it and words that I have to remember. And then when I got over to France, when I tried to think of the word, I would always go to the way it was written first in my head as opposed to the way it sounded. And then once I realized that really there's only like, you know, a few sounds to this word, even though they're spelt differently, it just made it easier in terms of like my fluency with the language. So on a very, very introductory level to the word acheter, I would like to revise the 3 major sounds that I came across when speaking mostly in the present tense. But obviously I put in the past tense there for those that know it, just because I use it a lot and there's just one word. So the 3 sounds for acheter is, so when I'm saying tu achètes, il achète, elle achète, on achète. J'achète, j'achète, because J, I'll come to that later. J'achète, tu achètes, il achète, elle achète, on achète. J'achète, tu achètes, il achète, on achète, elle achète. Elle achète, il achète, tu achètes, j'achète, on achète, il achète, tu achètes, elle achète. So you can see that all those different pronouns of saying he, she, etc., all have the same sound. So if you think of it as just one word instead of all these different words with the endings, it becomes a lot easier when you speak it. The second one is the vous form, which, as I was saying earlier when talking about vous, just remember that it's followed by an A sound. So it's exactly the same as the first one, but with the A sound. So you can see it doesn't matter which way it's spelt here with the different endings of that have the A sound. The word acheter, when talking about I'm going to acheter something, he's wanting to acheter something, etc., etc. And acheter, like vous, again the S becomes a Z before the A, so vous achetez lots of things. Vous achetez stuff. And obviously the past tense acheter. So I'm saying acheter because I'm sounding really American right now. I do apologize. You're probably going, oh my god, this woman's French is really bad. But I'm just trying to get across the idea of acheter, acheter, acheter. It's one sound for lots of different words, the way it's written. And the third one obviously being the new form, we achetons. Like, we achetons our groceries every week. We achetons fuel for the car every week. We achetons gifts at Christmas. We achetons clothing to wear. We achetons our groceries together, etc., etc. So what I'm trying to get across is the three major sounds of it. It's just the stem, achète, then the version with the A at the end, acheter, and the version with the on at the end, achetons. And so it's the same with lots of verbs, those three major sounds that go through when speaking. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go more into the meaning of the word acheter and how I remember that when learning this verb. So the word acheter means to buy, but I like to remember it as to purchase. The reason being is the word purchase and the word acheter both have a CH, and they both have a very A sound. Acheter has the A at the start, whereas purchase has the A sound after the CH. And CH, when in acheter, the CH in French becomes a sh sound, whereas in purchase it remains a ch sound. So if you know how to spell school, I kind of imagine what school would sound like. If I took that C out, it would be like a sh sound, a shul, and then that comes back to acheter as opposed to saying achete. I know it's a really long way of going around it, but it's just another way that I remember it, and again, this is my revision. Another way I remember the word acheter to mean to purchase, to buy, is that I put a little story in my head. So what I like to do is I like to imagine that I'm on that game show where you get to buy letters in order to try to guess the word that's on the board, and I come up with a little story in my head that I would like to purchase the letter T on that show. Because acheter and purchase, as I said, they both have a CH already. They both have a definite A sound, but purchase doesn't have a T, so I need to purchase one in order to be able to similarly spell the word acheter. And yeah, so that's just an example of how I remember the word acheter, meaning to purchase or to buy. If I'm wanting to learn the word acheter, I will also look it up in the dictionary. And when looking it up in the dictionary, I'll have a look for the words around it so I can see if there's a noun or an adjective or anything else like that that I can find. That makes it quicker and easier to learn the word and all of its variables at the same time. So when I looked up acheter in the dictionary, I found that there was also some nouns, an acheteur and an acheteuse. Both of them mean a buyer. So if you're going to buy something, to buy acheter, there has to be a buyer. And with French, for those that know already, when it comes to professions, there is a male version and a female version, kind of in the way that in English we would say there's an actor and an actress. So I won't go too much into how the professions and all the different endings for them in terms of professions, but like I was saying, you go to the dictionary and you see acheteur for a man buyer, and acheteuse for a female buyer. I'll quickly touch on with the endings, if it sounds a bit more, the sound is more definite and a bit more just nice, pleasant sounding, it's usually feminine. And if it's just a little bit more blah, a little bit more rough, it's a male word. So acheteur, acheteur, doesn't sound really nice, whereas acheteuse, so that sounds so nice when you're speaking French. So that's just one way to remember the difference in the female and the masculine endings. Okay, so I went through the dictionary again for the word acheter. As I said before, I found acheter and acheteuse. So a purchase to acheter, to purchase, to buy, and then I found the word for buyers very close to it, and I also found the word achat, a masculine word. So I've put there un achat. I can always, when hearing it, I can tell it's kind of masculine because it doesn't have that very definite end sound to it. It's not a very pretty sound, so I take it to be a masculine word. And un achat is a purchase. So to purchase, and then you have a purchase. What that purchase is, I don't know. It doesn't matter whether it's a masculine thing or a feminine thing. The fact is that the word achat, which means a purchase, is masculine. So if I was in French class, I'd be like, ooh, what does acheter mean? The teacher would go on about, ooh, the word acheter. If we're having a conversation about people that buy things as a profession, we would only talk about acheter or acheteuse, acheter or acheteuse. And if we're having a conversation and someone says, oh, what's the word to say a purchase? And then the teacher would say un achat. But if you go into the dictionary, you get all of those words together in the one location, and because you can kind of see how they relate, it's easier to remember. And if you do this often enough, all those grammar rules that they go on and on about in detail in class, you just kind of click, and you kind of see whether that sounds right or it doesn't sound right, because you've had so many examples reading them in the dictionary. So acheter, as I was saying before, with the conjugation sounds, there's really only three commonly used one. I achète, you achète, he achète, she achète, one achète, you people achetez, and we achetons. And then you've got an acheteur, or une acheteuse, or un achat. There we go, acheter. So the next verb I'm going to revise is aller, which means to go. And one of the ways that I started remembering what this verb means is by looking at the way it's spelt and just coming up with a little sentence to remind me of something that I might say to myself when I would want to use the word aller in French. So aller, to go, I remember it by saying, I'm all in, I'm going for it. So all being the same letters at the start of the word to go in French, and I'm going for it to remind me that I would use this verb a lot when I'm going to go do something. So that's how I remember aller, spelled all, E-R. I'm all in, I'm going for it. When revising the word aller and its various verb conjugations, because it's one of those irregular verbs that's used quite frequently, I remember 5 different sounds to begin with. And I'll start by revising the first 3 sounds, which is ve, va, et vont. I've chosen these ones because they all start with the letter V, and I remember it as in the word going because with V, when I hold up my fingers, I try to remember it's like 2 different directions that I could go in. So I can go in this direction, or I can go in that direction if I imagine my fingers to be a fork in the road. So when I look at the letter V, I imagine that as 2 different paths I could take, and I wonder which one I'm going to take. So the word go comes into my mind, and then I get these different sounds starting with V. So I, they, I go. Just a few ways of saying that to get the repetition revision. And I'm going to say only the French word, the word go in French, so that I just get my head used to saying it over and over again. So I vais to the beach, I vais to the shops, I vais to the school, I vais to the airport, I vais to work every day, I vais to the restaurant to eat, I vais to drive a car, I vais to make a cake, I'm going to make a cake, I vais to make a cake, I vais to I vais to have a good night's sleep tonight, or I vais kiss you at midnight because it's New Year's Eve and stuff like that. So I go, I go, I go, I go. The next one is va, which is when I say you singular, or he goes, or she goes, or it goes, etc., etc. And that's va. So he va to the beach, she va to the shops, the kid va to the school, the boss va to the airport, it is va at the restaurant. I'm not doing so well with this one, but you get the idea of va. So he's going to drive a car, he va to drive a car. She's going to make a cake, she va to make a cake. She's going to the beach, she va to the beach. He's going to see the sports game, he va to see the sports game. So she va, he va, it va, you va, va. Which direction is he or she going to take? Va, go. The next V sound is vont, which is what we say when we use the word they go. So they, being a group of boys or a group of girls or a mixed group of different genders, it doesn't matter, we use the word vont. So which direction is these people going to take when they vont to the beach? What are they going to do when they vont to the shops? What are the children going to do when they vont to school? When is this group of people vont to work? So yeah, they vont. So I, they, you, he, she or it va, and they, the group of people, vont when deciding where they're going to go. The next two sounds that come with the word aller is aller itself as a sound, as well as allons. So aller spelt with the end of the EZ at the end of the all, which has an A sound, the ER, which has an A sound, as well as that past participle there if you're a more advanced level French. All comes with the word vous and the verb ER verb itself, which has that A sound. So you, a group of people, or you, someone that I need to respect when I say you, in the English word you, you have an A sound attached. So how to say you alley to the beach, you alley to the shops, you group of kids alley to the school, you boss alley to the airport, you, my work colleague, alley to the restaurant. Or in terms of going, you're going. You, my boss, alley drive the more expensive car than me. You, the professional chef, alley make the best cake ever. You, the person that is working really, really hard, alley sleep really well tonight. Or you know, you, group of teenagers that have been drinking all night, alley kiss each other in the dark in the cupboard playing whatever game it is that you play. So vous, always followed by the sound A most of the time, and with the stem. For those that don't know, when I refer to the stem, it's where we take the end two letters of the verb off. There's different verb groups which I'll talk about later. So aller, aller, aller. Another way to remember that sound is, you know, when if you're not from Europe, you might hear them go ole, ole, ole when they're trying to really get a crowd going or cheer on a team. It sounds like aller, which actually means, you know, when you're at a sporting event and you're like go, 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 you go aller, aller, aller. Go, 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 aller, aller, aller. And it's the verb as well as, you know, saying go as a command to a group of people. Aller. And the fifth sound, oops, sorry, my little board's going all over the place, is allons, being the we form of the word to go in French. So we allons to the beach, we allons to the shops together, we allons to the school together each day, we allons to work together because we work together, we allons drive a car by the time we're 16. My girlfriends will come over and we allons make a cake together. My boyfriend's coming over tonight. We allons sleep well together, etc., etc. So when you think of the word we in English, just try to start in the background having the word on follow it, or the sound on follow it. Moving on with my revision of the word aller, I look into the dictionary and I see that it is also a noun for two different words, two different things. So starting with the first aller, which we've covered, which means to go, a verb, a doing word. Aller also means a journey. So when you go on a journey, or you talk about journeys, you usually use the word go there somewhere. I did it before. To go on a journey, I'm going to go on a journey. So the word to go also means, the thing of going, which is to go on a journey. When I think of a sentence in my head to remember this by, I say always going to go on a journey, because aller starts with the English word all, so you can see that she's always going to go on a journey. So that's one way of remembering it. When looking in the dictionary, I find that aller also means a single ticket. So when you go on a journey, you generally need to buy like a train ticket or a bus ticket or a plane ticket, etc. So the ticket that you buy to go on a journey is also called the word aller. So I'm trying to think really quick off the top of my head of a sentence that I could use all three words in. Vous allez faire un aller. Il faut que vous achetiez un aller. Yeah, because it's a masculine word for both of them. So you can see, just like in English, for example, the word read and the word read, spelled exactly the same, pronounced a little bit different, but spelt the same, can mean two different words. Whereas here, aller means to go, it means a journey, and it means a single ticket that you would buy to go on that journey. To buy being the word we said before, which was acheter. Vous allez acheter un aller. So you're going to buy a single ticket. So that's combining two words together, two verbs. So yay. All right, moving on. Another part that I want to include in my revision for the word aller, meaning to go, is that when you go somewhere, you usually go to a place. You can say that you're going to do something, or you can say that you're going to go to a place. And here I just want to revise that to go is usually followed by a with the accent, pronounced a. And so, for example, I'm going to go a London. Okay, so as you can see, it's gotten a little darker since the last time I recorded a part of this first episode. My light bulb is blown. So in summary, I know it's been a bit of a longer video than I originally thought, but you can skip ahead to the parts that are you'd like to hear more information about. The next time that I find to record a video, I am hoping to focus more on the other pronouns. In English, those would be the words we, she, he, it. Because when I was learning about the gender of words and adjectives, and whilst overseas saying he and she, I forgot that it is also feminine and masculine, and especially coming from an Australian culture where there is no gender to words, it was such a foreign concept to me. And I think that as part of my revision, I want to go back to basics on this, so I have it in my mind from the very, very start, instead of kind of just having it thrown at me a little bit later on. So I hope I've been at help. If not, well, I don't know why you're still watching, to be honest. But yeah, so Well, thank you if you have, and I'll see you with the next episode. Okay. Have a au revoir, bonsoir. Je ne sais pas l'heure où vous êtes maintenant, mais je vous souhaite bonne chance.